Okay, so just like flower morphology, the morphology of fruits and seeds can often provide clues about dispersal of seeds rather than dispersal of pollen. Right, so you could take a look at this seed and you could probably guess that it is wind pollinated, not pollinated, or sorry, wind dispersed, not animal dispersed. Um, yeah, so the dispersal syndromes generally consist of, again, 6 or more traits. So I'm going to give you 6, just like I did for seeds. And that's the color, the size, the weight, the flesh type, and seed protection. So on the inside of the fruit, how protected is the seed, and also the seed number. And again, these all have names. Botanists love naming things, and I do expect you to know these names. So just like wind pollination, you can have wind dispersal of seeds, which is called Anemochory. So it's got the same prefix as Anemochory, right? So the suffix changes, but the prefix is the same. So this should make your studying a little bit easier. So here are the 6 traits, and if we were in a room, we would probably do this mostly through discussion, right? But you could imagine that if you're wind dispersed, the color doesn't matter. You probably don't want to be very big or very heavy. The flesh type doesn't really matter. It can be kind of dry and light. There isn't that much need to protect the seed because no one's eating the fruit, and they often have only 1 or 2 seeds because they need to be light to travel on the wind. Right? So again, I think that other than the fact that the names are a bit weird, I think that this is all pretty intuitive. Right? So just like you can have hydrophyly, you can have hydrochory, right? And so you could imagine then if you're going to be dispersed by water, there's no reason to have any particular color at all. Size probably doesn't matter, but you need sort of a light mass relative to size. You need low density so that you float, right? So coconuts are enormous, but they float because they're relatively light relative to their size. Flesh type is tough, right? You need to be able to survive in the water for who knows how long, and there's usually no intentional reward. The seed production is going to have to be really tough and protective against water, particularly if you're dispersed in the ocean. And then the seed number basically doesn't matter as long as you float, right? And coconuts are an interesting example. They're sort of everywhere along the equator naturally because they disperse on ocean currents, right? So you can imagine they need to be able to be protected against the salt water, but also live for who knows how long while you're floating on ocean currents. So actually the fact that coconuts have the sort of delicious sweet inside is actually just an accident. They just need a really high provision to be able to survive so long at sea. You can also have gravity dispersal, which has a different name, Barochory, which is a little bit different from pollination. I think one of these is covered, but you can imagine, again, the color doesn't matter. This is velvet leaf, which I think we saw in one of the labs this year, and it's a pretty common weed in Indiana from Asia. And so it makes these really interesting fruits. They're a bit like, when they dry out, they're really interesting looking. When they dry out, they're kind of like a rattle, and you can just sort of see the seeds falling out, right? So color doesn't matter if you're just relying on gravity. Size doesn't really matter. You're probably going to want to be heavy so that you fall. You don't need any kind of flesh, right? So the flesh, this is the fruit, all of this, of velvet leaf, Butylon theophrasti, and bite into this. It's just a bunch of crunchy, dead, woody stuff. There's no seed production because you're just planning to hit the ground. And again, it doesn't really matter how many seeds you make. Poppies do this too. They make these sort of funny, I think that fruit is called a capsicum. But if you shake it, it's like a rattle and you can see the seeds falling out. And then animal dispersal, which is called zoochory. So the zoo is like zoology. And you can divide that into 3 categories, right? So there's endozoochory, where animals actually eat the fruit and the seeds go through the gut. So if you think about, like, I don't know, I often eat eggplant with the seeds inside, so those seeds, cook it, but those seeds are going through. Synzoochory, animals eat the fruit, but they discard the seeds. So when I eat avocados, I put the seeds in my compost bin, and sometimes they even germinate until winter. And you have Epizoochory, the accidental dispersal by animals. And so we'll talk a little bit about these in turn, right? So endozoochory, so I think I'm covering this up, but the seeds go through the gut, right? So you can imagine that these are all the fruits that we like to eat. Brightly colored to attract animals. It's going to depend on the vision, right? So, these are all beautiful colors to our eyes, and they probably are to most mammals. The size is going to be variable, but it's going to relate to the size of the animal dispersal, right? So an ant can consume a smaller fruit than an elephant can, for example. The weight, again, it's going to be variable, but it gives you clues about the size of the animal dispersal, right? So, an orange and a watermelon are probably designed to be, by natural selection, to be taken by different animals. You're going to want soft and tasty flesh. You need seed coats that can survive protection from the digestive system. So, again, you can take a look at like watermelon seeds can probably survive going through your digestive system, but avocado seeds probably can't, right? They have that little very papery thing. And then you need lots and lots of small seeds that can be easily swallowed, right? So there's a reason why I don't pick seeds out of eggplants, because they're so small that I don't care. But there's another reason why I do take the seed out of an avocado, because it's enormous. So that takes us to Synzoochory, where animals eat the fruit, but they discard the seeds, right? So again, you want to attract animals. The size, again, and the weight are going to give you clues about who the animal is that disperses them. You need some kind of soft, nutritious flesh. Seed production doesn't have to be as much, although it also may depend on the animal. But it's because the animal doesn't consume the seed, it's going to eat the fruit and then toss the seed away, like I do with an avocado. And then you want few, very large seeds to discourage consumption, right? You could imagine that if avocado seeds were teeny, teeny, tiny, I might not bother with taking them out. Like with a kiwi, I just eat all the seed. And there actually are really cool special kinds of structures that some seeds have. They're called eliosomes, I think, but you don't need to know that they're specifically designed for ant dispersal, which is pretty cool. So the ants will carry these seeds away, eat this little thing, and then throw the seed. And then Epizoochory is the accidental dispersal by animals, right? So these are the kinds of things that you probably don't like to encounter in nature, right? So you want these inconspicuous, non-colored things so animals don't notice them. Small, lightweight, dry and tasteless, relatively few seeds, and these are all the kinds of things with adaptations that allow them to stick into your sweater and stick all over your dogs. That's basically causing accidental dispersal. All right, so that is all of the different types of dispersal syndrome that I want you to know about. And so I think I'll stop this video here, and we'll just make this the fruit dispersal syndrome video.